Hello everyone, Ethersong here, and I am back with another Blue Protocol video. Today's video is a summary of the recent Blue Protocol Communication 6.3 developer livestream. This livestream had two main topics: the results of the network test and about adjustments they will be making based on the test. They first talked about the server and infrastructure status. Some problems that occurred included an issue with concentrated access at the beginning of the test to the game's database, causing endless loading, certain servers requiring maintenance due to server memory issues, and 101, 103, and 104 errors occurring. 101 had to do with certain network conditions, 103 had to do with the game's install location and Windows administrator settings, 104 had a number of causes. One case included a situation where after a player is disconnected and tries to return to their original position, but it no longer exists. All these bugs are currently being investigated, and the team is working to fix them. And while there were some bugs like these, overall the game's network systems were stable for the duration of the test. In particular, they were able to monitor the system, which created more channels as players increased, and along with this, the scaler system. If we recall back to January, these are the areas that had a bug and caused a 2-month delay for the network test, so it is good to see they are working without any major issues now. Next up is in regards to the back-end tools and systems. These include tools such as those to check on a player's status or control a player if a problem were to occur, and also a log feature. These tools and log had some performance issues that are being investigated. While these don't directly affect the players, they're important for running the game. The network test allowed issues like these to come to light. Apart from this, the developers talked about Security Solution, a feature that checks for third-party programs running in the background that could affect the game. There were a few programs that were detected, but the development team decided it wouldn't have an impact on the game and allowed them to be used. Unfortunately, there were some players detected to be attempting to cheat in-game. These players' accounts and hardware have been banned. Next up is in regards to the party system. There were two major issues. One was in regards to meeting up with other players in one's party. Another was a new bug causing an issue with a player's status. They are investigating the cause and working to fix the issues. The next topic was in regards to game balance adjustments. The developers have received a large amount of feedback from the players. In addition, they have logs from the test and decided to make certain adjustments before the game launches. Next up, we got some data from the network test. First, we got a look at the percentage of male versus female characters. Males made up 25.4% of the characters and females 74.6%. This was as the developers expected. Next, we got to see the percentage of various options chosen for the male character creation. Starting at the top left is the face chosen. At the bottom left is the character's height. At the top right is the body type, small, medium, and large. And at the bottom right is the character's physique, with a small number meaning a slimmer character. It seems like a lot of the male characters had a tall height with normal to muscular physique. Continuing on, we got a look at the popularity of various hairstyles. The numbers correspond to the image below. The right graph shows the percentage of colors chosen for hair. 23.3% of the players also chose to use the two-tone color feature. The top percent to each color is the main color percent. The bottom percent is the sub-color percent. It seems like the black color was the most popular choice. Since saturation and brightness can be adjusted, I would think this includes all colors ranging from white to gray to black. Next up, we got to see the popularity of choices for the female characters. Starting at the top left, we once again have face choices. The face type 1 and 2 were both popular, but 3 not so much. Continuing on to the bottom left, here we can see the character's height. It seems like both small and average heights were popular. Moving on to the top right is the body type of characters. Small characters were most popular, followed by medium. Next up, at the middle right of the graph is physique choices. An average physique seemed to be the most popular, with slim to larger characters being more or less evenly spread. And finally is the graph of breast sizes at the bottom right. It seems like players like big breasts, with over 60% of the players choosing breasts of a size greater than the starting value of 0. As for hair types, number 3 and 6 were by far the most popular, both at around 21%. After that, number 11 also had a fair percentage. Hair types 13 and 14 seem to be the least popular, with only 0.4% each. As for hair colors, black was once again most popular, but there was a greater variety overall compared to the male characters. And once again, keep in mind these colors include saturation and brightness changes as well. Next up, we got to see a distribution of various classes at various levels. Level 1, we see a fairly even distribution of all classes being chosen. Level 10, players get their ultimate skill, and here we see the percentage of Blade Wardens increase. Level 20 marks the max level for classes in the network test and is similar to the level 10 results. It seems like many of the players who spent a lot of time in a network test had chosen the Blade Warden class. Also, the developers stated that out of all the players who played the network test, 6.2% of them reached level 20. Continuing on, we got to see the percentages of players who participated in the network tests in-game content of the Tower of Beginnings and Rush battles. Of all the players, 4.6% of them participated in the Tower of Beginnings, and it had a 80.2% clear rate. As for Rush battles, 3.7% of all players participated in it, and it had a 95.8% clear rate. It seemed like many players had difficulty raising their battle score in such a short time period. In this final graph, we got a look at the percentage of Battle Imagine crafted. This more or less seems to follow player progression through the game. We can also see the unique cat Battle Imagine with 0.08% craft percentage. I believe this one was obtained through the Hidden Cat quest. I did that quest in the closed beta test, but I didn't get around to doing it during the network test. I'll have to look at getting that cat Battle Imagine once the game releases. Next was the second major topic of the stream, adjustments being made after the test. This was based on player feedback and data from the network test. The first major change being made is how HP regeneration works. Players will now be able to naturally recover HP while in field areas when they are out of combat. In addition, by sitting down, HP recovery speeds up. Being in a camp or village will further increase HP recovery speed. Along with this change, HP recovery skills and Battle Imagine's recovery amount is being increased to act as a way to heal in an emergency. Furthermore, the prices of healing potions in the item shop are also being reduced. It is to be noted that there is still no natural HP recovery during missions such as dungeons. HP recovery in these is limited by healing items, and they want to avoid players healing for free during these. Another change is being made to the safe areas. One safe area in particular, linked to a story progression area, had a bug. If an enemy enters one of these areas, they are normally forced to leave, but it seemed to be an issue with this system that is being fixed. Continuing on, we next got to look at some changes being made to named enemies. These are the unique boss monsters that appear in field areas that require players to group up to take them down. These unique monsters' health is being decreased and their attack increased. These monsters had a problem with where they were too tanky and dealt too little damage. So there was low risk, but it took a long time to defeat them. Now there is a greater chance for players fighting them to be killed by the enemy, but players can work together to revive downed allies. The developers noted they are still working on fine-tuning these numbers for these changes. They don't want players to immediately kill these enemies as soon as they spawn, but they also don't want the unique monsters to be as tanky as they were before. Next up, the developers talked about drops from enemies during missions. I believe this refers to rare drops, including weapons that you can get from enemies during missions. They said the drop rate was slightly lower than they had planned and will be increasing it. Next up was one of the topics I'm sure many players were happy to see discussed, and that is class balance. In particular, the Blade Warden, Twin Striker, and Spellweaver were relatively weak. For the Blade Warden, later on it gets many abilities that help it maintain aggro, but it had trouble doing this early on. To help remedy this, they are adding a new status called Taunt that will force enemies to attack the target who used it. Blade Warden will have 2 types of skills that can use this and allow them to force enemies to attack them. Blade Warden can rely on these skills to maintain aggro until they unlock more skills and abilities later on to help them naturally generate aggro. Next, in regards to the Twin Striker, many players felt like its damage was lacking compared to the Foe Breaker. To help this, some of the Twin Striker skills have had their cooldown reduced, and many skills have had their damage increased. In addition, the Twin Striker had an ability called Last Waltz that increased their damage while below 30% health. But this was at odds with the Twin Striker, who could drain health to heal, and the fact that other party members will also try to heal low health allies. As such, this will be changed to a new ability that increases damage while health is above 70%, increasing the closer to max health the player has. Last Waltz itself was a shared class ability, so if this new ability is also shared, I could see it being a very powerful damage increase ability to use on other classes as well. The developers also gave an example of one Twin Striker's skill's cooldown change. The Twin Striker has a skill called Fall Impact, where they jump to and damage the target location. In a network test, this cooldown was around 12 seconds, but it seems like it's being reduced to half at 6 seconds. This will allow the player to jump into battle to a new target or retreat depending on the situation. The developers noted that the Twin Striker has a number of skills that can be activated a second time after they are leveled up. As such, it can be difficult to get a full feel for this class early on. Moving on to Spellweaver changes, EP costs of skills have been decreased, so the Spellweaver will be able to use skills more frequently. In addition, a large number of skills have had their damage increased. One example was Blizzard, which is having its damage largely increased. The developer stated that they may have been over-adjusting for area of effect skills and have increased their damage. The developers also talked about how by activating EP regeneration skill Concentrate, a player can use certain skills nearly non-stop for its duration. However, if you go on a magic rampage, you will most likely be targeted by enemies. As for other 2 classes, Keen Strider and Foebreaker did not receive too many major changes. This makes sense because they seem to be the most powerful during the network test. The Keen Strider is getting some boosts to healing and having some skill cooldowns reduced. The Foebreaker is having some skill cooldowns reduced, as well as having some of its damage numbers looked at. Overall, the damage of many classes is being raised and cooldowns reduced. The general feel I got from these changes is that perhaps many of the class balance decisions were based on the in-game. Later in the game, it looks like the feel of many classes will change quite a bit, with skills leveling up and new abilities being unlocked. However, it appears the developers had not been too focused on the class's early game experience until the network test. But it is good to see that they are now making adjustments, and it looks like the classes will be much more fun during the early game as well. Apart from that, they also mentioned some additional adjustments made to the aggro system in the game. Currently, the aggro amount a new player who enters combat has looks to be too high. This causes an issue where, in the field, a player may be fighting something, and if a new player runs by them on a mount, the enemy will start chasing the mounted player. They are looking to fix some various issues like this. Continuing on, the developers said that rare material drops from enemies will be increased. Goblin Fangs were one of the main rare materials players may have encountered during the network test. These were required to craft the level 10 weapon. Without getting this weapon, it would be difficult to increase one's battle score and continue progressing through the game. As such, in the Dragonclaw Valley explorable area, players would farm goblins as soon as they spawned, hoping to get one of these low chance drops. The developers stated part of the reason for the low drop rates was because much of the game was designed with being in a party in mind. So they designed it around being in a party, right? While in a party, if a nearby party member kills an enemy, you also get experience and drops. What ended up happening, however, was that there were many solo players in the network test. Players may need different numbers of materials or have different objectives. So in explorable areas like this, the necessity of a party wasn't very high. As such, the developers will be moving from balancing around parties to a more solo-oriented gameplay experience. The benefits of being in a party will still remain, so it will just be an overall boost to the drop rates. As for gathering, mushrooms in particular, being in a party doesn't have any benefits. As such, it was up to chance whether a player could get the needed gathering materials or not. If you had bad luck, you could be spending hours hoping to get the needed materials. To help fix this, there will be some gathering points with fixed materials. By going to these, players will be guaranteed to get the items they need. In regards to gathering, another commonly requested feature was to be able to gather while riding one's mount. The developers are testing this feature and are looking at adding it to the game. However, it may be sometime after launch that it gets added. Next, the developers talked about removing the level cap connected to adventurer ranks. They initially wanted this to be something that rewarded players for raising their rank, but some players found themselves stuck at the adventurer rank up exams. These players were unable to increase their level and could not get new Enhance Imagine unlocked. The level cap proved to be more stressful than rewarding, so it is being removed. Now players can continue to level up if they find themselves stuck at a certain point. Continuing on, the developers touched on one of the largest points of criticism from the network test, the adventure boards. These boards are like an alternative to quests and filled with a number of interconnected tasks. Completing boards can also unlock new recipes or raise one's adventurer rank. However, with the way the boards work, the tasks can only be completed in order. This caused a lot of backtracking and occasionally blocked players from progression as they were forced to gather rare materials. As such, a number of changes are being made to these boards. To start, free spaces are being added to the boards. These are tasks that can be completed in any order and at the same time as other tasks. You can see these tasks in the image here. They are just circles that aren't connected to any line. As for weapon and Enhance Imagine boards, they will now give all materials needed to craft the item. Before, they only gave a partial amount of the materials for the item they corresponded to, so this is a welcome change. Beyond that, they are also looking at increasing the number of boards that can be active at once. In the network test, there was a limit of 5, but as more and more boards get unlocked, it can be difficult to micromanage the most efficient combination of boards to be active at one time. The developers noted, however, there are server limitations to how many boards they can allow to be active. As such, they will be making adjustments within their limitations. The developers also said they are going to be adding additional rewards to clearing tasks in the boards. And this was the end of changes being made based on feedback from the network test. The developers stated that they will continue listening to player feedback here on out and after the game's launch as well. However, they noted that they won't be changing everything that players ask for. Like in the network test, if both the players' voices and the data the developers have match, they are open to making adjustments to improve the game. They explained that there are certain tasks in the game that are intentionally designed to act as a hurdle for the player. They hope these challenges lead to fun experiences. On the other hand, they hope to improve aspects of the game that are unintentionally stressful or problematic. Finally, at the end of the stream, the developers revealed the next live stream will be number 7 and is planned for the end of May. Keep in mind, the numbered live streams, like the 7, are ones that contain new information and reveals. And that brings me to the end of this stream. Overall, the developers once again showed that they are listening to player feedback. It really appears like they are trying to make a game that their players will enjoy. Nearly all the major problem areas from the network test were addressed. Drop rates and gathering will be improved, natural health regeneration is being added, the tankiness of unique monsters is being looked at, adventurer boards are being adjusted, and classes are being balanced. I think it is worth noting that many of these changes can be done through number adjustments. The current core of the game looks to be solid. And with these changes added, I think the player's overall experience with the game will be drastically improved. I am very optimistic about Blue Protocol Communication number 7 developer stream coming next month. They have stated in the past that they are planning to talk about a roadmap for the game during this stream. Honestly, I believe that there is a high chance that a release date for the Japanese game may be revealed in this stream. If I had to make a guess, since the stream is at the end of May, Japan's release date may be sometime in June or July. While they didn't reach their initial plan for early spring, I think it is in line with the delay they had with the network test. In any case, I am expecting the next developer stream to give us a lot of new information, and I can't wait for it. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the changes being made from the network test feedback. Also, I'd love to hear your predictions for what the next live stream will be about. Let me know in the comments. Until next time, later!